If there's a movie, he's gonna rate it. He's gonna talk to his friends and they'll debate it. He's gonna try his best to not be a hater. His name is Billy the Movie Grader.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Movie Grader and Friends podcast, your weekly or semi-weekly podcast talking about all of the latest movies in theaters. I am Billy the Movie Grader, and in this episode, I am once again joined by my buddy Justin. Say hello, Justin.
What's up?
In this double episode, we will briefly cover Brad Pitt's AdTRASHtra and then dive right into Joaquin Phoenix's new movie, Joker. Dealing with AdTRASHtra first. AdTRASHtra was released back on September 20th, 2019, and it was directed by James Gray, and it obviously stars Brad Pitt. It was about an astronaut on a space mission to basically find his dad and uncover some other mysteries. Our thoughts on AdTRASHtra, Just? Go ahead, you can start.
AdTRASHtra.
AdTRASHtra, that's more like it, yeah.
That's all I gotta say on that. That sums that up. Want me to elaborate?
Yeah, go ahead, go for it.
Let's see. From a kid who wanted to be an astronaut half his adolescent life, also who actually went to the now defunct space camp in Santa Cruz as a kid.
Right.
You could say that I pretty much have been into space and understand space, and I've been fascinated with space for a long time in my life.
Sure.
As such, I've seen probably every great space movie, whether it's space horror like the Aliens franchise, whether it's Gravity, whether it's The Right Stuff, whether it's every XYZ space movie in between all those, right?
Super into space movies.
Let's see. AdTRASHtra, translated from the Latin meaning to the trash instead of to the stars. It was simply that. To say it was bad is an understatement, because to say it was bad would imply that there must have been some good. So I'm going to say that it was AdTRASHtra because it was really that bad.
Yeah.
Waste of a cast. Brad Pitt, Tommy Lee Jones, Donald Sutherland, complete waste on all three accounts there.
Ruth Negga, yeah.
Her too. Waste of all great actors, actresses. The plot was so convoluted and so hard to digest and understand. I don't even know why we're even doing this podcast other than to say, don't go see AdTRASHtra.
The truth of it is, we actually saw the movie about 2 weeks ago, but we still feel as if we're still watching the movie because the 2 hours felt like 5 hours. It was so boring.
Boring, again, is an understatement.
I wanted to walk out and go watch football on that Sunday, but
we didn't, because I felt
Justin wanted to stick it through. It's
once
fine.
you commit to something, you follow it through to its completion, right? Bad decision. Just to briefly touch on what I didn't quite get about the movie. It opened up to a pretty awesome scene, I don't want to give it away, but
walking up that tower.
I don't want to give too much away for anyone who might want to see it. It was like a antenna array for deep space communication or whatever. It was cool.
There's really not much action in it, though.
But there was some cool cinematography. But as the movie plays on, without giving too much of the plot, Brad Pitt has to keep this mission of his veiled in secrecy from all these commercial space astronauts that he's dealing with. He goes to the moon to actually take another rocket to the base on Mars where he can actually communicate with Tommy Lee Jones' dad, who went on some expedition 20 years ago to find intelligent life.
Yeah, what was the project called? It was
Project Lima. So he went on this project to find interstellar life, and then they lose contact with him. And then he goes rogue, and then he starts experimenting with some crazy energy source, which is causing all these energy storms throughout Earth and killing thousands of people. Fine. Whatever. Some basis of some kind of plot with that, right? However, within that medium and that narrative, it goes off the rails every possible way you could possibly think.
Yeah. You're talking about space visits.
Space monkeys.
Oh, space monkeys.
Deranged space monkeys make an appearance. Moon pirates.
What?
Pirates on the moon, warring factions on the moon. They didn't explain that.
No.
They didn't explain anything about how different nations colonized the moon.
Dudes just show up and try to jack them.
Yeah, somehow now these different nations or different factions or entities, they're warring with each other to control different sectors of the moon. Whatever. So moon pirates, space monkeys. But for me, the ultimate AdTRASHtra type element of AdTRASHtra was the fact that he goes and finds his dad after basically doing the most shadiest things he can to all these astronauts he's dealing with and keeping this mission under the radar. And then he goes to Mars and then finds out that his dad is not a hero. He's basically an enemy of the people. And then he gets 2 bars by commandeering and hijacking this other rocket and taking out 4 astronauts there.
It got silly.
And when he finally gets to his dad, the whole basic discourse of this conversation with Tommy Lee Jones is, well, son, I went up here to escape you and your mom. I didn't love you, and as a space jockey, I just had to escape the mundane boringness of Earth. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the big revelation with his dad. Like, but beyond the big, which is not a big revelation at all, just this, like, I don't know, this tiff with his dad. After he completes said mission, which I don't want to give away, that's where the movie falls off the rails as far as real world physics.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how bad the physics are in this movie.
You were literally laughing at it during the film.
I was literally laughing at some of the stuff that they wanted you to believe would be scientifically sound, physics-wise or astrophysics-wise, with this movie. Whatever oversight or accuracy committee there must be on all these space movies, they must not have showed up to work that day, or they were drunk, had a hangover, or whatever. They went out and partied too late the night before.
Or they just did bad research.
Because the physics, and even more so, the astrophysics employed in this movie are so comical. It's Hollywood magic at its finest. I almost thought I was watching just a movie on just the pure nature of special effects in Hollywood and how crazy they can be and try and make you convince the masses that, oh, these are real things. Like, the worst physics, worst movie, worst narrative I've ever dealt with any kind of space movie experience. Right. And again, this is from someone who's seen Apollo 11 and, The Right Stuff. Yeah. And, even though people knock Gravity, Aliens, even though Aliens was a horror space franchise, there were still some real space elements in what they were talking about. Yeah.
And they tried to throw some horror aspects into AdTRASHtra.
They tried to throw in the horror aspects of Space Monkeys. I don't know who wrote that in. Whatever, James Gray, whatever.
Came out of left field.
Pure left field. Tangent to the fullest definition of tangent. But I said my piece on AdTRASHtra. I'm done. I don't need to belaboring this anymore. You can all get from what I'm saying where I feel about it. So.
All right, so let's get to the simple part of this, because it made our job very easy to grade it. I gave it an F.
Ditto.
Just
ditto. Best ditto. Over here. F. Pure F.
F. We pretty much. I echoed all of Justin's statements as well. I would just be echoing the same sentiments if I had to, justify my F as well. Honestly, it felt like 5 hours to me. I couldn't wait to go home and watch football, to be honest.
Boring. So boring.
I was just sitting there waiting for something to happen, and stuff did happen, but it was boring and it was slow. I don't know, I was dozing off at certain points of the movie.
I didn't fall asleep because I was locked into the fake physics and the stupid narratives. I was trying to still digest it. Like, when does it get actually real? Or when did it get good? But that never happened.
Bottom line, the filmmakers and anybody involved with this movie owes Justin and I 2.5 hours of our life back.
Pretty much.
We'll never get that back.
Pretty much. AdTRASHtra.
Now, moving on to a movie that is actually deserving of airtime on this podcast. It's Joker, of course. Joker was released on October 4th, 2019. It was directed by Todd Phillips and stars the great Joaquin Phoenix. Joker is about the comedian Arthur Fleck and his transformation leading to the iconic Batman villain. Thoughts on the Joker, Justin? Go ahead.
Complete opposite end of the spectrum of what AdTRASHtra is.
Right.
Obviously, I've mentioned this before. You probably know this. Growing up as a youth, crazy comic book head. More of a Marvel guy. Uncanny X-Men, Spidey, Punisher. But outside of that, when I did read DC Comics, it was literally Batman, Green Lantern, and Justice League of America, with Batman taking up the majority of my DC experience.
Right.
I've been into all the Bat movies. Tim Burton Batman being one of my favorite movies.
Sure.
Batman Returns. Val Kilmer, Batman Forever. I didn't really like him as Batman.
I liked Batman Forever. That was fun.
Didn't like George Clooney's Batman. Obviously, the re-release of the Bat trilogy, Dark Knight trilogy with Nolan. Awesome. We all know how great those are, right?
Awesome.
But to localize this more to not just Batman, but the whole Joker mythos in particular.
Right.
I love Jack Nicholson's Batman for what Jack Nicholson did for...
Oh, yeah.
Or Jack Nicholson's Joker for what he did in that Batman as Joker. He captured the comically insane, criminally insane Joker type paradigm, right? His Joker...
Did a fantastic job.
His classic, did a fantastic job. One of the best villain portrayals in the history of villains in movies.
Right.
Let's fast forward to 2008. Heath. Well, we all know he posthumously got the Oscar for his portrayal of
Well
Joker.
deserved.
Why so serious? I mean, that's enough. Like, we need to even talk about that.
R.I.P.
That being said, only because I've followed Joaquin's career from way back in Gladiator all the way to Her, I've always liked him as an actor.
Oh, he's a phenomenal actor.
I didn't realize what he did with this role. Despite all the rumors, despite all the hype, seeing the Toronto Film Festival, him getting a 5-minute standing ovation, some Italian film festival getting another 10-minute standing ovation to where people weren't even letting him get out of the movie, screening room.
It's well deserved.
I didn't understand, prior to watching it a couple nights ago. Let me just say this.
The hype is real.
The hype is real. The hype is substantiated. The hype is worth the hype.
Yes.
The thing is, every Joker, everyone that's played this most iconic character of Joker, the arch nemesis of Batman, everybody had their own dynamic they brought to it. Yeah. One of the things they touched on in Tim Burton's Batman is that Joker is a chemist expert. New Joker products. Right. Something's wrong. He's been using Brand X.
Brand X.
That's my secret ingredient, Smiley.
I forgot all about that.
I mean, that showed that Joker being an insane chemist and, crafting all these concoctions, not to mention his buzzers, the buzzer when the guy was shaking his hand that burned him alive. Right. And the acid flower and all that, right? So that Joker was able to use props to a certain extent to hammer home the Joker experience, right? Right. Heath, way different. Heath had the more darker, gritty, violent Joker down to a T. Right. The why so serious when he's being interrogated by that Gotham detective, like, you killed 6 of my buddies, and he's like, 6. And he's like smiling, just classic, genius, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was so good.
But let me also touch on why this Joker was so magnificent. You have to understand that with Todd Phillips in this movie, one, the budget wasn't that big. No. Two, all they did was film in
it was an indie movie, wasn't it?
I mean, I don't know if it was an indie movie. It's still a DC production, but I will say this, it was growing up in New York, tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, that whole area. Yeah. They only filmed it in New York and New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And it almost transported me back to growing up in those crazy, metropolitan concrete jungles.
It was Gotham City.
It was Gotham City. It was the best Gotham City that could have manifested for a movie outside of what Tim Burton did with that gothic type Gotham City.
It felt dirty. It felt gritty, and it was just, I don't know. It gave me an uneasy feeling throughout the whole movie.
Same here. It also spoke to something else, though. It spoke to a certain extent, postmodern society.
It failed postmodern society,
failing the masses, and only a certain sector or a certain element of that populace in that society actually living the good life.
For the lack of a proper infrastructure.
Right? Yeah. And you could really boil it down to haves and have-nots. Oh, haves and have-nots. Which is a concept that's existed throughout time in our society and every society, right?
Totally a theme in this movie. Yeah.
So, that being said, what I'm trying to touch on is that this Joker didn't have any props. He didn't have the Heath already transformation in a Joker, the violent, sadistic, killer Joker. But what they did with Joaquin in this movie was really magnificent and excellent in the sense that this Joker, you see the transformation of a dejected, isolated, ignored, quote unquote, failed person. Yeah. And his descent into madness stemming from his mental illness issues, but also his, to a certain degree, vindication of himself. Yeah. Even with on a weird, crazy vibe.
He was looking for acceptance.
From anybody.
And nobody would validate the guy.
And to see what he became when he decided to become this nihilist and basically shed all these societal conventions and just be himself, and really believe in his brand and his actual person.
Yeah, screw everybody else.
It was really something special. And also, they changed a bit of the Joker history. He wasn't Jack Napier. He's Arthur Fleck. Mm-hmm. It's okay. I think even that lessened having any Joker substance already added to him. It gave Joaquin a blank slate for his Joker.
And he made it whatever he wanted it to be.
And what he made it was excellent. Excellent. Dude. I mean...
Because, I'm not a big comic book reader, but you are. And this was different from the comics completely, right?
Murray's real.
Yeah.
You know, Thomas Wayne's real. Martha Wayne's real. I don't want to give away certain things.
Yeah.
But the Waynes are in it. That's all you need to know.
Oh, and Murray is great.
But Murray, Robert De Niro's Murray.
Robert De Niro. Oh.
And if you don't know, Murray's like a Johnny Carson type talk show host.
Yeah, late night. You know,
Gotham guy, celebrity.
It was cool to see.
It was great. I mean,
they even have like the intro for his show, kind of like Saturday Night Live.
Exactly.
It was outside of the theater and the cars driving by.
It was great.
Late night with Murray.
It was insane. It was great, and people are gonna focus on just the violence in the movie, but even the violence in the movie came from a place of importance, and it was used as a tool and an instrument to explain this larger narrative of the failure of postmodern society. Let me touch on one thing I really liked. I'm not going to give it away verbatim, but towards the end of the movie, there's two scenes where Arthur is confronting people and asking, why do you guys not care? Why is the world not civil anymore? Why don't people say hi to each other?
Nobody cares.
No one cares. Why is everyone so mean? Mm-hmm. He touched on the apathy that is in modern society.
Right.
Like, people are apathetic to them. Like, at one point, I think verbatim, his line was, no one cares about the next man.
Right.
Or their fellow man.
Yeah, I think I remember that, yeah.
And as sad as it is to hear that, and as sad as it is to actually recognize that, to a large degree, that is true.
It's very true.
It's very true, especially in our society now that's so fast-paced. Everybody's locked into their devices. Mm-hmm. Everybody's on a computer. Everybody's, running from A to B and from, Y to Z, and there's no time in between for any of the other letters. Whatever you feel about the world, your place in the world, whether you're high on the hog or, like, down at the lowest rungs of the ladder.
Being stepped over.
Like, it speaks to everyone.
Oh, absolutely.
And even Joker's transformation into quote-unquote homicidal, lunatic, maniac killer, even that transformation speaks to people.
Right.
And it shows something that is important, which is people need to understand that they have worth in this society, regardless of where they're at. I've had spectrum shifts in my life where I've been higher than I am now or lower than I might have been at one point. So I've seen that whole, spectrum, like, and what Joker went through. Not to say it like that, but I'm just saying my own subjective life.
But
it rings true to what that movie says. Everybody goes through highs and lows in life. But if you're constantly going through lows, and lows that are actually, to a certain extent, circumstances beyond your control, making those lows happen in your life, it can lead someone to devolve into
violence,
madness, which is what
totally happening in our world today, unfortunately, with all these mass shootings, and you hear about it in the news, and it's crazy.
Now, obviously, I don't know if anyone's really been keeping up on what's Joker supposedly been potentially manifesting in our society. I mean, case in point, the Dark Knight shooter.
Yeah, the Aurora shooter.
Colorado. There was actually reports that all these people looking like a hero, all these dejected kids, and they were gonna, actually shoot up various theaters around the nation.
Rod an asshole.
And there were plainclothes police officers in many theaters. Actually, in Huntington Beach, they closed down all their Joker post 5 p.m. shows on Friday. In Oklahoma, where there was just a shooting a few years ago, the Army National Guard, when they were telling their the soldiers that go see Joker, go have fun, but be ready for emergency protocol.
Oh, absolutely.
Know all your egresses, all your exits. Get ready for the duck and cover protocol. Yeah, it's sad, but it's also very poignant that this movie could have even spurred these type of things.
Right. It was weird. I mean, like, the theater I went to, we saw this movie separately, by the way, but like in Burbank, at the Burbank AMC, I noticed they had a flyer saying items that will not be permitted into the theater. I didn't read the whole list, to be honest, but I saw backpacks as one of the items. I noticed, during the film, one guy had to get up and go to the restroom, I think, halfway through the film, and he had a backpack on, which caused me to worry a little bit. I was like,
because it clearly said
I thought that was one of the items that weren't allowed into the theater, and I saw this guy get up and go use the restroom with a backpack on. I'm like, what's going on here? But luckily nothing happened, and I haven't heard of anything happening.
I haven't either.
And hopefully nothing does happen.
It could have just been being overly cautious.
Which is sad that we have to do in this day and age.
Right, and a reactionary response to potential threats. Not to take this any darker, but case in point, 2 days ago, they found this girl in Texas who had, like, enough arms to fully equip a guerrilla group, go through a revolution. She had pipe bombs, explosives. Like, they caught her 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And the FBI and the local authorities are really commending themselves because they think they could have prevented a major tragedy.
Right. Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
then she also had stuff. She had the James Moore guy, the Aurora, Colorado shooter's notes. She had Ted Kaczynski Unabomber manifesto. She had all kind of stuff, dude. Like Ted Bundy's biography. Like,
what it comes down to, if you see something, say something.
Right.
Because, your life could be in jeopardy at any given moment. And all it takes is one asshole to walk into a theater and start spraying bullets at everybody. And you just never know.
So, not to take it on that somber, dark note. I mean, I just wanted to touch on that. But that shows you the simple reaction of what happened real world in our society should show you the power of this movie or movies in general and media in general. Like, this movie is very poignant. Yeah. It's very important. And it's excellent. The acting, and let me say this as well. It's not just Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
You guys had Zazie Betts is acting. The girl who plays Domino from Deadpool and was on Atlanta with Donald Glover. Right. You got the guy who played Thomas Wayne. Forget his name. What's his name?
Thomas Wayne. I forget his name.
Whatever.
Too.
That guy's a great actor. Yeah. Then you had.
It's well acted across the board.
Even the detectives. One of the detectives was the guy from Boardwalk Empire who played Steve Buscemi's brother.
Yeah, I never really watched Boardwalk Empire.
Great across the board. Even Arthur's mother, with all her, she was great with all her problems. And
she did great.
So
I mean, I think it's safe to say to give Phoenix the Oscar now.
I don't see anyone.
Yeah, give it to Joaquin.
I don't see anyone coming out that's gonna supplant him. Who are they gonna give it to? Adam Driver for Kylo Ren? No, yeah, right. So there's nothing else even coming out anymore that's gonna have the opportunity to even eclipse him, unless Star Wars Episode 9 is the best thing.
Well,
ever.
There's still some good movies with good actors coming out.
Yeah,
it's that kind of season for the movies right now that we're just starting to get into.
True.
I mean, I think Ford versus Ferrari is going to.
Oh yeah, that's okay. That's gonna be great. That's a whole other story. That's gonna be great. And I love Bill and Damon, so that's gonna be great.
But if I were to predict now and bet money on it, I would just give Joaquin the hardware now.
His performance is that legendary as Joker. And let me say this about Joaquin's Joker, as opposed or in comparison or in contrast to Jackie and Heath. Yeah. Joaquin's Joker is great for two reasons. Just the regular portrayal of this dejected guy in society who also unfortunately has mental illness and also a laugh tick or a problem. Right? The laugh tick. And a lot of people think that was just the Joker laugh, which has been synonymous with the Joker laugh, but I liked how they added it to this being actual physical ailment of his. Yeah, there's been a lot of...
But the way they did that was really good, too, especially with the kid on the bus.
Exactly.
I mean, that was sad. He was just trying to make the kid feel good and have fun with him.
Exactly, and that speaks to your fellow man not wanting...
And the mom just goes off on Joaquin Phoenix.
For no reason. Yeah, for no reason. And look, I think Joaquin's Joker is brilliant twofold. It's brilliant for pre-Joker, and it's brilliant for once Joker manifests. Absolutely. Because let me say this. There is enough in this movie prior to you seeing Joker come about that will just have you floored. Right. But once Joker actually manifests and the movie goes to the Joker narrative for the second half of the movie, it's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant. And also, it's not as violent as you might think.
Well, the third act's pretty freaking violent.
But it's not
it's not as violent as you may think.
It's not as violent as Dark Knight.
No.
Not as violent as even Batman 1.
No, but
it's violent.
It is deserving of an R rating.
But bigger than the violence, I would say it's more disturbing.
Oh, it's very disturbing.
For what it shows about society and encapsulated in this.
This movie might end up haunting some people for days. Yeah. It's pretty, throughout the whole movie, like I said, I had a pretty disturbed and uneasy feeling about it. It was just like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe unless you go experience it for yourself.
Yeah, you have to see it.
But it does give you a very different feeling than other movies that you may have experienced. There's really no way to describe it. You just have to go and see it for yourself. It's a movie that cannot be missed.
I think you hit on the money. It's a movie that's going to have cultural impact for years to come, like way beyond its shelf life in the theaters. People are going to be watching this movie over and over and over again, just like people watch Dark Knight and Batman 1 over
Sure.
and over again.
Sure.
It's that great of a performance on, again, not just Heath. Obviously, he carries the whole vehicle, but all the supporting characters also have integral roles.
Absolutely.
And they all shine.
Absolutely.
I could go on ad infinitum about Joker. We could be talking here all day. Unfortunately, we both got stuff to do today.
Yeah, we got stuff to do today, but
I'm just going to go ahead and give it my grade now.
Yeah, let's go ahead and grade
I give it a solid A.
A? Oh, yeah, I went with A-. You know, it was phenomenal. I enjoyed it, and...
A for awesome.
A for awesome, yeah.
That's what I give it for. So.
You know, like Justin said, it's the opposite end of the spectrum of an AdTRASHtra, so...
Totally.
All right, now we'll move on to like the movies that will be released on October 11th, which is next week, the week that you'll be hearing this episode. First up, we got Gemini Man. It's directed by Ang Lee.
Looking forward to that, actually.
Yeah, it looks fun.
Looking forward to that.
I mean, it's directed by Ang Lee and stars Will Smith.
Right.
It's about a hitman fighting a clone of himself, basically. And it looks like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I don't think he's a hitman, though. I think he's a special ops soldier.
No, it's a hitman. It's a
hitman. Oh, see, I didn't know. See, you know more than me.
I did some research.
Yeah, that's good. Sounds like you're the movie creator.
You know, AdTRASHtra, take note. Research.
Yeah, exactly. AdTRASHtra, take note.
AdTRASHtra, take notes.
Yeah.
Do your research.
Exactly.
It's important.
God, it's so important.
But basically, it looks fun. I mean, the CGI in it looks pretty good. I mean, you can still kind of tell he's a CGI Will Smith acting with the real Will Smith. But as far as technology is concerned, it's pretty advanced and looks fun. We'll definitely be seeing that next week, along with The Addams Family. All right, it's directed by Greg Tiernan and Conrad Vernon. It is voiced by a monstrous cast, actually, with Oscar Isaac, Charlize Theron, Chloe Grace Moretz, Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things, Nick Kroll, Snoop Dogg, and many more big names. It's just the list is too long to list on this podcast. And it's basically the animated version of the Addams Family that they're back for another. It's back around for another take on the famous and kooky family we've grown to love over the years. And I'm looking forward to this too. Chances are Justin and I will see both Gemini Man and the Addams Family, and we'll be back to do it for another. We'll be back to use those to talk about those movies on the next episode. So, any other thoughts, Justin?
Let's go see Joker. Stay away from AdTRASHtra.
Exactly. Well, that will do it for this episode of the Movie Grader and Friends podcast. Next Tuesday, watch out for the podcast episode dealing with the Gemini Man and the Addams Family. Please find me on Instagram and Twitter at The Movie Grader, and please visit my website, www.themoviegrader.com. On iTunes, please review and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so already. And please tell your friends about the podcast. Thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. The Movie Grader and Friends podcast is available on all major platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and basically anywhere you can get your podcasts. This has been the Movie Grader and Friends podcast. Thank you for your time. Please feel free to email me at themoviegrader@gmail.com with any comments or suggestions, and see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much.
His name is Bill.